Blog Talk Radio.
All right, we're getting ready to go on. All right, hello everyone. It is Sunday, June 5th, Capital, and you are now tuned into PopGlitz Radio, Season 2. I am your host, Giovanni Gusto, the media mogul, here with the latest in pop culture and entertainment. Here with me today is writer, philosopher, former congressional nominee, and vice chair of the Republican Party of L.A. County, Ms. John Wood Jr. How are you doing?
I'm doing beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
Certainly, anytime. And Atlanta area opera singer, Russell Thomas. How are you doing, Russell?
I'm good. Thanks for having me as well.
Certainly. All right, so ready to get started?
Yeah, by all means, man. Fire.
Yeah. All right, so this week it seems logic has gone completely out of the window at the latest Trump rally in San Jose, California. Rioters were outside pelting eggs and throwing glass bottles at Trump supporters and locking them inside the rally venue so they couldn't get out. In the beginning, there were objections to things that Trump did at his rallies, but he's pretty much since then cleaned it up, well, a little bit. And now Hillary supporters and Bernie supporters are doing the very thing that they were accusing Trump's people of doing. With the mainstream media now and some conservative journalists saying that the people who were attacked somehow deserved it for supporting Trump. Even Justin Bieber didn't blame anyone for causing him to egg his neighbor's house. Mm-hmm. So, John, I want to start with you. Can you help me explain what you think is going on in San Jose?
Well, I mean, I think that what's happened is Trump came out the gate so provocatively, and obviously we saw earlier, like you said, he's sort of toned it down a little bit lately now that he's pivoting into the general. But we saw some violence at Trump's events earlier on being perpetrated by his supporters, and I think what's happened is, now that he's coming out to a liberal stronghold like California, you got a lot of, particularly a lot of young Bernie Sanders supporters and whatnot. I think that crowd, people in that crowd are saying, hey, Trump is basically giving us an excuse to have free reign in terms of acting whatever kind of way we want, because there's this notion, and you can. I started to say hysterical notion. I don't want to be condescending, but there's this notion that Trump is this dictator on the rise, leading an army of virulent racists, and so people think that, oh hey, let's just have it out in the streets. Trump started it, now we can finish it, and the result is that you've got the perfect shitstorm. Pardon my language.
No problem. I've used worse.
Yeah, so it's combustible. It's fire on top of brush with some gasoline thrown in after the fact. And basically, I think that you got young protesters on the left who are trying to up the ante, and the whole thing is, I mean, it's a tragedy for the health of democracy. But it's a beautiful thing, I think, as far as the media is concerned, because ratings and controversy, all of that sells. And, you turn on the TV, you see the clips of the things that happened in San Jose. I mean, people just chasing people down in the streets, breaking people's headlights, taillights, damaging property, roughing folks up, people bleeding. I mean, I hate to say it, it makes for great TV. So, I don't think that at the very least, I don't think the media has a problem with it at all.
No. And Russell, what do you think about that? What's happening?
Well, I disagree with one thing that he said, where he said it's bad for democracy. I think it's great for democracy, because I think people are actually getting involved now in a way. We might not agree with their tactics or the violence. I definitely don't agree with the violence, but I like the fact that people are actually getting involved and showing that they give a crap. Especially these millennials who, as we know, don't really care about much, but social media and such. But I do have to say that there's an uprising, as we were talking about before we went live. There is an uprising. I don't think the Republican Party needs a revolution. I don't think that The Democratic Party needs a revolution. I just think people need to be involved and know who and what they're voting for. And when you have somebody like Bernie Sanders or someone like a Donald Trump coming out and saying the things that people say privately, I guess would be the easiest way to say it, it emboldens people.
Yeah,
and then
go ahead. No, I was going to counter and say that I do think that there should be that there's a need for a revolution. I mean, nationally, just look at Congress. I mean, Democrats and Republicans have had an extreme, their unfavorable numbers are absolutely horrible. All of the establishment candidates, I mean, Hillary raised a ton of money, and she still can't make Sanders go away. Jeb Bush, by any standards, during a normal election period, he would have been the nominee. He would have won. Again, during a normal election year, but he raised.
But again, what does establishment mean other than a talking point for the media? That doesn't really mean anything. When you consider Marco Rubio an establishment candidate, when he was elected, he was a Tea Party candidate. So I'm not really quite sure what that even means when it comes to conservatism.
I think what it means is it's an impression that people have of a loose affiliation of people who are, quote, established in the party, in the traditional party structures, right? So you have the people, the official party people, the chairman of the parties,
as well.
We'll say that again.
I said, and you could just define it as like propped up candidates.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically you've got the lobbyists, you've got the people who run the party officially, like, I guess I technically would be one of them out here on a local level, but, the Republican National Committee, the Democratic National Committee, you have elected office holders who didn't just come in on the Tea Party wave like Rubio did, but people who've been in office for a long time. And, there's just, what it is, in both parties, there's in terms of attitude, differentiating the establishment from the populist movements and whatnot, I think the people in the establishment are people who've been in the system for a while and who sort of are accused of wanting to go along to get along. And that's the negative spin, that they have no principles and they're just there patting their own pockets. The positive spin would be, these are people who are reasonable, who realize that you have to compromise and work with the other side to some degree, this, that, or the other, And I think that on both sides of the aisle, you have people who, not to sound condescending, but, regular people, ordinary people, who feel as if that system is basically meant for the insiders, but the things that the people in the bases of the party care about are not really being addressed. So if you're a very progressive person, you want to see, a much higher minimum wage than we have now. You're not happy with just Obamacare. You want single-payer health care. And if you're in the Tea Party, you're not happy with just bringing the deficit down a little bit. You want to get rid of that $20 trillion debt we have. You're not happy with cutting the growth of spending. You want to dramatically cut into government programs across the board. You want to eliminate the Department of Education. You want to eliminate the EPA. And what's ironic to me about that is that really, if you look at like the Hillary Clinton establishment, the George and Jeb Bush, wing of the Republican Party, if you look at the establishments, they've gotten, on both sides, they've gotten votes from their bases, from these people on the farther ends of the spectrum, by making promises or commitments, or at least hinting to them that they do these more extreme things that they want them to do, probably knowing that at the end of the day, they're going to sit down at a table with another person from the other party and say, okay, we're not really going to give what we told Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party that we're going to give them. We're going to water it down and do something that we here think is a little bit more palatable.
Right.
And so they've created these monsters, if you will, and now they've come to the point where they realize that, oh my God, we can't control it. We can't control. The Democrats are very limited in their ability to control Sanders and their people, and the Republicans can't control Trump and his crowd at all. So
right.
there's some political to it, I think.
And I have to say that's just the beauty of it. As far as Russell said, the more people need to get involved, that's what it appears that they're doing. As I said, just the regular party candidates aren't making any headway. People are speaking. And if I were just to be an outsider or a regular voter and just watching these riots, I think that I would go with the group that's being attacked, the one where the person's getting hit in the head with a raw egg, because it's like, what did this person do other than voicing their, voicing their opinion on who they want to vote for? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to read a couple of things that some RedState.com editors did, because they were pretty much on the side of the Bernie Sanders supporters. I don't know how that happened, but one of the editors, Neil Stevens, said, "You deserve to be beaten if you join a movement whose leaders consider or leader encourages the beating of protesters, like in the good old days."
But that makes listen, that makes sense. Violence begets violence. That's what they're saying. No one deserves to be beaten. But I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, but he didn't say it like you said it, though. He said it in kind of, it was a tweet, but just reading it, it seemed to be kind of like poking Trump people in the eyes, as opposed to saying, well, this is, you do X, you're gonna get Y. If he'd have been a little more reasonable like you, Russell, I think that wouldn't have ticked so many people off.
And see, for some of these things, I give him a slight pass in the sense that he has learned along the way. And so if Trump it is. If he had gone through, say, 5 election cycles and had, had made these statements for several years, maybe, okay, that's a problem. I feel like he's learned to stop that type of rhetoric. So, again, going and poking him and his people in the eye over it is ridiculous. And plus, did the woman really deserve the egg pelting? Another one, he said, "I warned you he was a Nazi. You didn't listen. Now you're street fighting like Weimar, Germany." Mm. Yeah, but the street fighting, and a lot of it's organized.
Yeah, but I think that's a bit of a reach. That last statement that he made. We won't. For one thing, he's not a Nazi. I think he's a very intelligent man, and he's manipulated the media in a way that no politician has ever done, and that's why I hate the word establishment, but that's why the establishment is so upset. They've paid, for instance, like Jeb Bush, you mentioned, who I think would have been a great candidate. Jeb Bush, for instance, spent $90 million and got absolutely nowhere.
And the super PAC money alone was around $120, which was more than the super PAC money that Hillary received a couple months ago.
Right. Yes, he was ahead of everybody. He was ahead of everybody. But I don't think we will ever be Nazi Germany. I don't think we will ever, as a country. I don't think we're set up. I think we're set up in a way to protect people from that. I think that's a bit far. But I also feel like violence begets violence. If you are backing a guy who says, let's beat people like we did in the good old days, and when people say good old days as a black man, that worries me personally. Even though I'm conservative,
Giovanni,
that troubles me.
Giovanni, do you mind if I ask Russell a question real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Russell, do you think that on balance, do you think that racial relations are becoming stabilized or more unstable, better or worse since the beginning of this election?
Oh, I think they got worse when Obama was elected. I don't think they're getting any worse now. I just think that people are seeing it. Seeing it a lot more. Imagine before Trayvon Martin, I'm just giving an example. Before Trayvon Martin, black boys were being shot, but there were never riots and there were never protests. There were never, Al Sharpton. You know what I mean? We just didn't really have that as regularly. Since Trayvon Martin, since all of those situations happened, now we have it's all of these situations are being brought to the fore. It's like every week or every couple of weeks we start to hear of someone, a Freddie Gray or, a Ferguson, every other week it seems like that's what we're hearing. I don't think it's gotten any worse since this election cycle. I just think people are more vocal about it. Racism in America, this country was built on racism, as we all know. It was built on racial disparities, I guess you would want to call it. It's not going to go anywhere, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. We could decide that we're going to, how do I want to put this? We can decide that we want to move forward in an open and respectful manner, or we can decide we want to keep fighting an old fight. Now, I'm not saying we forget about it. I'm not saying, no one ever tells a Jewish person to forget the Holocaust, but they always tell a black person to get over it. Get over it. It's slavery. Get over it. You didn't know those people. You weren't there. You never experienced this. As a conservative, and knowing that it was conservatives, it was Republicans that were actually fighting for civil rights long before Democrats realized they can get a vote for it. I just think that it's unfair that we've gotten, as a party, the rap of the party that doesn't care about black people and the party that doesn't care about poor people. I don't think either party cares about black people or poor people or poor white people. I just think that the politics is based on money, and it's whoever has the most money is going to have the most influence, and whoever has the most influence has the most power. And when people learn that,
race is a money-making industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like global warming, it's all about money. It's all money. But hey, that's my opinion.
No,
that's how I feel about it.
I definitely agree with a lot of that. The thing that's disappointed me about Trump so far. One thing that's disappointed me about Trump so far is that I thought, and the race isn't over yet. He's got a little bit of time, but I thought that if Trump wanted to, he actually could have been, instead of being exactly the opposite, he actually could have been a Republican candidate who was able potentially to get out from under all of the racial stigma and the stigma of prejudice and racism and so forth that typically attaches itself to the Republican brand in general and to whoever the presidential nominee typically is. I mean, whether it's deserved or not, and I think it's usually not deserved, but even so, the Republican candidate standard bearer is pretty much always identified as not being, a lot of people will think that person must be racist, and if not, they'll think he's in league with racists one way or another. But Trump, has had such a long resume and has got such a long list of relationships with, high profile, not just black celebrities, but people of all races and so forth, who really like the guy. I mean, before the election came about, Russell Simmons loved Donald Trump.
In hip hop culture. I mean, he's been named by many a rapper, R&B singer. Lil Kim had mentioned too much about wanting. She kind of joked about having a hotel deal with him. I mean, that was.
Are you kidding? Trump is like basically like what P. Diddy would like to be when he grows up. I mean, that's Trump and Trump has been an established figure on a peripheral sense. He's not an artist or a producer, but he's been an established sort of icon or archetype type figure in hip hop culture. Yeah, for a long time, and Trump has relished that. By the way, he's not unaware of it. He's aware of it, and he digs it. He likes it, and he courts those kind of relationships. And he already came out behind the eight ball with the birther thing. But Trump sort of made a choice. He could have tried to have won the nomination in a way to where, maybe he wouldn't have maxed out your working class white vote turnout in the way that I think he's going to. But he could have presented himself as a much more palatable. He could have transcended the party label.
I think he made an effort.
I think he will.
In the sense that
no. I think he will. I still believe he will, because he is a very smart man, and this is what people are taking. I mean, he's not a politician that's been coached on what to say, the right look to make, how to, pinch your fingers together.
What area
Bill Clinton did. He has not been coached in that way. But I think over time he will. He's a person that I think is extremely sensible in regards to his strengths and weaknesses as a businessman, as a human being. You know what I mean? I don't think that he is. I don't think that it's over yet. I think he's embraced that anger. I think he's embraced those racist folk. I think he's embraced that. But I don't think that it's over in terms of how he can use his influence and knowledge and relationships to bring people together racially.
Well, it does, and I live in South Central LA, or South LA, as political correctly call it now, and I've got several friends and acquaintances of mine just in the hood out here, young black dudes who hit me up, and they don't tell anybody else this, but they say, hey Wood, I'm voting for Trump. Hey man, how can I register as a Republican? Do I got to make that shit public? Do I got to tell people, or can I do it without anybody knowing? And it's because they're not necessarily even political. They just they just know Trump. And to them, he's a figure who is not. They don't associate him with George W. Bush. They associate him, I guess, with hip hop and being a guy, and beyond that, just being a guy who, let's face it. Trump is thug life all the way. Trump is the gangsterest dude to ever run for president. Period. He is. He just is. If we're speaking in the vernacular of popular culture, And so for some people, some guys I know who otherwise are pretty much disengaged from politics entirely. These are people who they probably voted for Obama because Obama was Obama. Obama was our first black president. He was young and hip. But that kind of voter can switch to Trump. So that avenue is there, and I think you're right too that Trump is a better communicator than most politicians, because frankly, Trump is a salesman. He's not a politician. And salesmen, and I've worked in sales my whole life, and I've worked in politics for years. Salespeople are better communicators than politicians. You know why? Because politicians try to win arguments, but salespeople try to close deals. And the difference is that in closing a deal or making a sale, you have to make a person feel a certain way. And if you can make a person feel a certain way, that person is going to buy. You can win an argument with somebody and then still not buy your product. They can understand logically why the product is good, but that doesn't mean you're going to feel comfortable going into your wallet and coming out with that credit card. It's going to be like, oh, you know what? It sounds right what you're saying, but I still got to go home, talk to the wife, talk to my mom, talk to my accountant, my lawyer, and by the time the person goes through all that insecurity, he's not going to buy. But a good salesperson will make the person feel like it was his idea to buy the thing in the first place, And that's what Trump is good at. I just feel that Trump may have gone so far in one direction at this point that even he might have a difficult time steering a ship that big out of the way of the ice.
Possibly.
You know what I mean?
Possibly.
Yeah, and I would mention that the difference between Trump and Obama, both of them are kind of gravitating based on name recognition, but at least we know what Trump's record is. He is the example of capitalism, and we all know that capitalism is what gets people out of poverty. Poor people know that. They already understand it, whether it's, drug sales, et cetera. They get it. And again, Donald Trump is a successful person. Everyone knows that, and they feel that at least that those are principles that he might be able to use in office. Whether or not they're going to publicly admit voting for him, I do believe that that he has very good chances just based on that alone. Mm-hmm. His record versus Hillary's record, no one is able to mention what he has done.
Yeah, well, as a lifetime Republican, I've ever since I learned about Richard Nixon when I was 14 or 15 years old, I wanted to be a Republican. Mm-hmm. So I have to say that I could not, in good conscience, vote for Trump, and not because I don't think he will be a good president. That's not what it is. It's something about the brashness of him that I don't think is even okay. Let's look at a cowboy like Ronnie Reagan. You know what I mean? cowboy. Talk about gangster. Ronnie Reagan was a gangster. You know what I mean? So let's look at somebody like Ronnie Reagan, who was tough, who said what he thought, but there was some level of elegance or couth about him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trump does not have that factor at all. And I think to be a leader, even if you're looking at
Obama has that. And Obama has a great presentation.
Obama has a great presentation. And you know what? He has horrible policies, but they're not his policies. He's just the puppet. You know, right. So he doesn't have great policies, and he's just following suit with, you know, he pushed through Hillary Clinton's health care plan that she tried to do as first lady back in the 90s. You know, he actually got it done. So I think that you know, for that reason, I couldn't see myself ever supporting him in that way. I think that not because I don't think he'll be a good president.
You just don't want him to be the face of America?
I don't want that to be the face of America. And people have a bad taste in their mouth about him because of everything about him. You know, they laughed at Ronald Reagan too, remember? They laughed at him for being a cowboy, you know, television actor. You know, they laughed at Ronald Reagan. And then when he came out, you know, at that first election and, you know, that he lost in the primary and made a big splash, they paid attention, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that people will, maybe Trump can turn it around. Maybe Trump can, you know, do something or say something to make people feel like he's not just a loose cannon. Because right now I feel like he's a loose cannon. And even when he was in the room with the press the other day and they said, well, is this how you're going to be as president with the press corps? He said, yes, absolutely. This is exactly how I'm going to be. You know, there's something about that I can't see us having as a leader of our country. And
you know, I'm not voting for a linguist. You know, we already have that. And, you know, again, as you said, he was used as a puppet to push a far left agenda that no one else could, using racial politics. But I'm also not going to, and I was a supporter of Trump from day one, by the way, but I don't see the rearranging of chairs on the Titanic as far as how I see the Never Trump people in trying to push a third-party candidate. And even I said, well, maybe there could be a possibility, but then to lead this movement with Romney and Glenn Beck, you know, two of our biggest losers, that's not going to happen. We do, you know, Romney, we're tired of you. You are the problem. You are why we're here now. Someone else could have made this point.
I absolutely agree.
Someone else could have made this point, but damn it, not you and Glenn. All right. That's cancer.
Right. Well, I'm a defend Mitt a little bit. I think that Obama was a much stronger candidate than Republicans realized in 2012. I mean, high unemployment or not, you know, Obama, people will come out and vote for Obama who will never vote again in their lives. You know, no other president, very few other presidents have that kind of advantage going into a race.
Ironically, we discussed this on Breitbart radio yesterday with Sonny Johnson, and she was saying that, you know, the unemployment was extremely high, or just black politics, period, when Obama was up for re-election. And it's like, well, when people would say, how could you vote for this man after, you know, black unemployment's gone up, et cetera? And to people who have not had a job, period, or who've just not done well for the longest, the numbers don't make a difference. And we know that the numbers are skewed.
Well,
you know.
All that's true, but bruh, I mean, you know, first of all, particularly when you talk about black people, a lot of black people don't. Yeah, well, I was going to say, a lot of black people don't blame Obama for the situation, that they just blame Republicans for everything that's bad anyway. And even if they do, it's like, you know, a lot of people, you know, supported OJ even though they thought he was guilty. I mean, if you're going to go that far in terms of, you know, in terms of you know, just getting the person's back because they're black. I mean, of course you're gonna come out and vote for Obama no matter what, you know.
But let's be honest. Even as conservatives, we have to be honest and understand that no Obama policy made the unemployment rate get higher. Let's be honest about that. You can't, unless you can tell me and give me facts of a policy that Obama made that made the unemployment rate get higher before 2012, I would really love to hear it. But I'm not a fan of his at all. I just don't believe that.
I'll tell you exactly the truth about that.
I was going to change the subject, but I'm going to let continue. Just really quick. Look, Obama, in my opinion, has been a terrible manager of the economy. But hold on, have you seen the oil companies in Texas? Like, they have all been suffering horribly, one by one, and they're all basically blaming this thing as far as they're blaming Obama's oil wars. They tend to say, I mean, they've been laying off in pretty big numbers just over the last couple years.
Well, the general point I was going to make is just that that's likely the case. But the things that made Obama's economy bad were factors that were pre-existing in the economy and the political structure before Obama even got there. Obama just has not done a good job of trying to reverse course on that, because he's going with the same sort of corporate-owned playbook that presidents before him have employed, and it's just resulted in a situation where Obama didn't really. Republicans, a lot of my fellow Republicans will act as if Obama, created a lot of the problems that were in place. He did. Obama simply has done nothing to correct those problems. Nothing substantial to correct. He's redistributed. Right. He's redistributed a little bit to try and make a shrinking pie more fairly divided. But in terms of reversing these problems, no, he's been completely ineffective. But it's important to keep it in perspective. He wasn't the cause of the problem, but he definitely hasn't been the solution.
And I wanted to say something else. Like a few months ago, as it's on the other show, I think we had discussed what Obama's going to do for the remainder of the year, and it was like, he said he's a lame duck president, but he should still be doing such and such. And it was like, no, I don't want him to do anything. Just it would be better if you just went and played golf for the remainder of the year. And I would prefer that, because, look at the bathroom law situation. That is now topic of discussion. Why? When was this ever a problem? Like, it drives me absolutely freaking insane that this is a discussion, this little sidebar distraction issue for no good reason that the Justice Department had to have gotten themselves involved in.
Yeah, I don't know.
His administration out for a lovely afternoon of electroshock. And if he'd done the golf, if he stuck to the golf for the next 12 months, we would have been better off, because we would not be discussing that issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wrote an article about the bathroom thing for Community's Digital News. I don't know if you want to open up that kind of worms, because I got plenty to say on that. But
that relates to the next topic, because I was going to bring up the Veterans Administration is interested in having our tax-paying dollars go towards gender reassignment surgery. And look, this is a thing that this is the very thing that I hate about liberals and the left. Living life as a transgender is a personal choice. Mm-hmm. You will not die if you do not have said surgery. You are likely not going to experience horrific hardship throughout life if you do not receive the surgery. Those are the types of things, health-wise, that we should be spending money on.
Well, I think hold on one second. Just to I mean, I'm not someone that particularly understands the whole gender reassignment situation and transgender. I don't understand it. However, I will say that there is a health situation involved there, and I don't know if one could consider it life-threatening, but there is a health issue. I mean, mental health is something that we in this country have ignored for a very long time, and I don't think that the VA, I don't think that the federal government should be paying for anybody's gender reassignment surgeries. However, I do think that there's no. Yes, but mental health is serious, and I think for a long time people have taken it lightly, and it's and the cause and effects of mental health lightly. And I think that someone believing or feeling that they're one gender, they're the gender opposite than which they were born, is a serious issue that could cause serious mental health problems.
Except that I don't think the advocates of that are saying that it is mental health. That would probably be, I'm not criticizing you.
No.
That would probably be offensive to a person who thinks,
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that a man thinking that he's a woman and was just born with the wrong genitalia has a mental health problem. I think that ignoring it or trying to stifle it and not living in whatever truth they believe to be theirs
might cause
a mental health issue. Could cause mental health issues. That's my belief. I don't want to get into the therapy portion
of this, but
but I think that that's very important. I think when you start to say there's no health ramifications, that's not.
I said that to say that. I mean, you will not die. Like, as far as the comparison between Obama, when they were calling him a socialist, and then you have Bernie who's saying that he's, like a hybrid socialist. Obama's actually more so. That was more of a truer statement as far as taking like a sector of the economy and having government control. And I feel like this is a portion of that. I just do not support taking my tax dollars and helping with that. There could be a problem. There could be a mental issue or something to address, whatever the case is. But just the act of, and that can be disputed until doomsday, but the act of using taxpayers' dollars for it, I just simply don't understand.
There are all sorts of.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say there are all sorts of things that the government uses our money for, which it probably shouldn't. I mean, my wife was a soldier, and when you're in the VA system, I think that there's certain allotments that are made for like cosmetic types of procedures and whatnot, depending on, I guess, the state of your benefits and so forth. Maybe you could justify it on that just cosmetically, But my broader problem with this. Look, it's not necessarily something I'm excited about. It's probably there are a whole lot of other things that we're wasting money on. So fiscally speaking, it's probably not the biggest deal. But the bigger problem to me is just the fact that, to me, there's a little bit of an arrogant supposition on the part of advocates of transgender bathroom access to the bathroom of their choice, regardless of their biological sex. And I kind of felt similar about gay marriage as well. I don't know either of you gentlemen's point of view on that, but see, the thing is that there's now I'm in favor of equal rights for everybody, right? Equal rights under the law, and equal rights under the law should lead to equitable treatment for everyone, right? But what I don't support is a social agenda that basically says that even though the vast majority of people in society have a personal view or definition of something in one particular way, and even though all of human history until 5 minutes ago looked at it that certain way, that social or cultural definition should be changed in order to force the law to comply with the social agenda of a relative minority of the people, or in this case, an extremely small minority of the people who feel that you can be a woman with a penis or a man with a vagina, right? And so, and I think, and what I wrote about in my article on Communities Digital News was the fact that the intellectual ammunition for basically allowing transgenders to go to the bathroom of their choice comes from linking it to the civil rights movement, right? Saying, well, segregation, because it is technically segregation. I mean, men have to go to the men's bathroom, women go to the women's. That is, on its face, segregation. I wouldn't say it's negative, but, the meaning of the word segregation is simply to separate according to one criteria or another. But the difference is that, if you go back to the era of, so-called separate but equal, and whites bathrooms and color-only bathrooms and so forth, the Supreme Court ruled that separate but equal, or what applied to race, was inherently unequal. And if you look at, just to take the bathroom issue by itself, it wasn't as if colored, black people and white people were going to separate but equally usable bathrooms. I mean, every time you see a picture from that era, the white bathroom is looking clean and pretty, and the colored-only bathroom is looking like something, basically looking like a shit sty, and it was like that across the board, so that it wasn't simply a matter of separation, but it was a matter of the fact people who were set in one set of facilities were being degraded by the dismal quality of those facilities. That was oppression. That was making a materially negative impact on the lives of African American people in this country. Now, immigration was a beautiful thing, but the thing that made it a crisis of human rights was the fact that our schools weren't just separate, but they were underfunded. It was the fact that our police forces weren't just segregated, but we had cops, and maybe we still have this problem, beating the crap out of us in ways that wasn't happening on the white side of town. I mean, all sorts of examples you can list. With the transgender thing, the men's bathroom is good, the women's bathroom is good. Women's bathroom is probably better just because men are gross when they go to the bathroom. They don't clean up after themselves as much. But you get the point. I mean, it's not as if on a material level anybody is being harmed by the way things are with this type of male-female, biological separation. And so what it is they're fighting for is not really equal treatment. It's actually, I would suggest, more of a special privilege as opposed to equality. Because what they're saying is that 99.7% of the population sees a man with a penis is necessary, having a penis is necessary to being a man, having a vagina is necessary to being a woman. 0.3% of the population, thinks otherwise. And we should change, therefore, the definition of male and female in the law to accommodate this extremely small minority, as opposed to, leaving it in place because it's been the overwhelming cultural consensus for so long. It's got nothing to do with the quality of anybody's life in terms of the usability of certain facilities, but it has everything to do with a social agenda. And I'm just opposed to doing that. You guys probably heard Obama was threatening to pull out money from public school systems, public school districts across America, pulling out federal funds if they don't comply with this bathroom.
Remember, I told you
if they are doing it.
But look, I told you if he went golfing for the rest of the year, we'd be better off. We wouldn't be having this discussion. I told you that this is an election year distraction issue. I mean, and the only people who are benefiting from this are LGBT lobbyists and those policy groups. Like, this is just a point on their legislative agenda to say, hey, I was able to get this law passed. And so now, they'll get, say, $1 million, a couple million or so, like GLAD, in donations so that they can exist another year. There's no other reason for it.
Yeah.
We have transgenders did not just appear in 2016. We didn't just learn how to do this surgery. And it's like, oh, my God, how do we figure out where they go to the bathroom? No, it's never been a problem.
No, I don't think so. I hadn't heard anything. And you know what? If it's in like West Hollywood or like a community that's like way more socially progressive or liberal, if on a local level, people in the community want to make that decision, I say, that's fine. I mean, this is America. I believe that different cities and different states should be able to set their own policies because they're going to better reflect the actual values of the people society. But as long as nobody's being materially damaged, I just think it's wrong to try and impose that on the federal level. When so few people are feeling that. And so that's where Obama loses me. And it seems like he focuses more and more on these kind of things and less on a lot of things on a lot of the things that matter materially.
More pressing issue, yeah.
And if you are able to divide the population, I mean, again, you have another group to pander to. So I saw this coming when the bathroom laws were started. I said, okay, we have created another class, of, another protected class, and it's going to go further. And so the next step, first, the bathrooms, and then the next thing is the now being able to have this surgery and not pay for it or have a discount or whatever is now a right. I mean, what we consider rights in America has completely gone out of control. I mean, and there are certain things I can kind of negotiate on or have a reason with. This, no. And for the VA, I mean, these are people who, many are largely pretty seasoned in life. So, I mean, to get to that point and you can't pay for this yourself, it's still a stupid argument. It's one I don't even really want to dignify. And I so hope that this does not is not something that carries over into 2016. I hope we get a Republican president just for that reason, just so that we can not.
It will still carry on in 2017.
What'd you say?
It will still carry on in 2017 because now the door has been open. That's what he's doing with a lot of these executive orders, a lot of these things that he's doing.
Right.
He's not trying to fix the problem. He's trying to start the conversation or open the door to the fight.
And like I said, these policy groups and all, it's 100 people in a room, et cetera. They come up with these ideas. That's how DC works. They create the idea, take the white paper, send it out, go spend time on the Hill, and it's all of this money that went into creating this. Like if you think of the salaries that these people made who came up with this problem, and again, as I said, in the end, they're just making money out of it, and we're the pawns for sitting and entertaining this foolishness. Like this is just, again, what I hate about the Democrat Party.
Well, it's ironic because this is the type of thing that makes people so enthusiastic about supporting Trump, even though Trump actually seems to support the liberal position on this particular issue. But yeah, I mean, it seems like the governing elite in our society is increasingly focused on things that are not of tremendous concern to the broad spectrum of the population. But just the majority
of the country, I think poll-wise, feeling that it's going in the wrong direction.
Oh, yeah, that's been the case. That's been the case for a long time.
Both parties are going against, or both liberal candidates are railing against the economy. Both are saying that Obama didn't have a good economy. They're both saying that the middle class is disappearing. So this is a way of this administration creating a distraction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure the president probably believes it. But
it's the economy, stupid, and that's what you should be sticking to, and not giving out free reassignment surgery. I mean, even I couldn't have. I mean, I saw this coming, but I would have never thought that we would have been here this quickly last year.
Yeah, I like to think I'm pretty good at seeing things coming, but it took me by surprise. I mean, I remember they were talking in California about putting this issue, in schools about reforming the bathroom policies. They were talking about putting it on the ballot. This was just 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember at the time I thought, that even in California, that's not going to pass. Now, it's damn near, most people, the vast majority of people, I think, still disagree with it, according to all polls. But the activist contingency is so strong behind it, and obviously they're being supported by the president and the Justice Department. So it's basically been mainstreamed. And so just to tie it back to Trump again real quick, because I not to try and play the moderate, but I kind of sympathize with both of your perspectives on Trump. On the one hand, I think that we need dramatic change, and so I was kind of with you, Giovanni, on that point. On the other hand, I kind of with Russell that I feel as if the office of the President of the United States is one that needs to be conducted and held with a certain level of dignity. And I feel like Trump just totally strikes out, just willfully strikes out on that tip. So, I mean, I've been going back and forth in my head about it a little bit. Ultimately, though, if there's a version of Trump I could vote for. It's the Trump that that I feel is, because I really don't think he's a racist. I've never thought that. I feel that
I don't think so either.
I feel that he's opportunistic. I do not think that he's honest. I mean, he may not be any more I'm not saying I don't think he's more dishonest than Hillary Clinton. I'm not sure anybody could be too much more so. Trump is a guy I like to call Donald Trump honestly dishonest. Like, he'll lie to you, but you know that he knows that you know that he's lying to you. And really, he's just kind of like that song, like that Rihanna Eminem song, like I love the way you lie. Like Trump basically, will tell you a lie, but he'll tell it to you in a way where it's like, I like the way he lies to me. I'm going to vote for that guy. I think that Trump is literally trying to push that. Pushing that strategy out in the open because his contradictions are so blatant. But the part of Trump that I like is the fact that he really is an independent individual. He's not anybody's puppet. He's his own man. I really like that about Trump. And I like the side of Trump that really does get along with people of all different races. I mean, I would have liked to have seen Trump really go out of his way to establish a multiracial, multicultural coalition on the right. I think that take the spectrum labels out of it, just multicultural coalition in general that's pushing back against some of the more airheaded concepts that you hear coming from the status quo and certainly the status quo on the left. I feel like Trump could have done that, and maybe Russell's right. Maybe there is still time. But but if his presidency is going to be one where, whether he believes in it or not, if he's going to insist on pushing an agenda that's culturally and racially polarizing and so forth, I mean, I can't get with the mass deportation.
I don't think that. I don't think
that would be hard for me to vote for.
I think if it were actually possible, which I don't know.
What would be hard?
Hold on. I don't know whether it's possible or not, but I would support it, possibly a more watered down version. But I'm not going to get into that because that's my hard white side coming out.
Giovanni, get on out of here.
He doesn't have to try that.
Wait a minute. What do you mean if you can't vote for it? I'm sorry.
Are you talking me or Giovanni?
Oh, so I think it was mass deportation.
What I'm saying is that there's a version of Trump I could vote for. It's the version of Trump that I think is inclusive, that really has an appeal across the board, that can build up a positive coalition of people of all colors and walks and so forth. Just because in his life and in his career, you see evidence of that. I mean, he's not a guy,
Right.
He's a guy who takes different positions. He gets along with everybody. On the one hand, you might say, well, that means he doesn't stand for anything. But on the other hand, it means that, he gets along with people of all backgrounds and personalities. And I think we do need that in a president of a very diverse country, both culturally, racially, and philosophically, So if Trump, if Trump were really presenting himself in that way, because I think he could do it. I mean, I see the evidence of it in his career. Then I could confidently back him. But if it seems to me, where I have trouble getting myself to be able to vote for him is if he continues down the line, which he's mostly been going on, which is basically just polarizing the electorate to the point where he's trying to get as many white votes as possible and then pick off just enough votes, from other races and other demographic groups to be able to get to 51% or whatever. But he's polarized the country irrevocably in the process. If it seems like that's what he's going to do, and that's more the way he's leading right now, it's hard for me to vote for that. I don't think he's a racist, but I think that the effect he's having culturally on the country is negative to a certain extent, to a certain large extent. And at the end of the day, the best thing he has going for him right now is Hillary Clinton. Because every time I say I'm not going to vote for Trump, I look over at Hillary and I look at all the problems that we have in our country right now, just in terms of the economy, the ownership of our political system by the corporations, and all of these things, which make me think that this economy is going to collapse and that we're all going to be sitting around talking about, transgender bathroom rights while, when the next depression hits, that's what I think is going to happen if we go the Hillary route. And so every time I say I'm not going to vote for Donald, I look at that and I have to give Donald another look. But it is kind of a lesser of two evils for me. Even though I like Donald personally, you know, I feel like if he was here on the phone right now, he'd be a gas to talk to. But you know, but it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough call between voting for Donald or just sitting it out because there's certain things that are hard for me to swallow.
But my question or why I jumped in.
Yeah.
My question or why I jumped in was about mass deportation because Obama has deported more people than anybody.
You know, that's not really true
in American history.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right there because it's another, and I used to think that was true too. But it's another example of the way they manipulate this because what they did was, and if you think about it, it wouldn't really make any sense given the fact that Obama owes a pretty fair amount to lobbies that are supportive of expanding rights for undocumented or illegal immigrants and to the Latino community in general.
Okay.
It wouldn't make much sense that he pushed that. And if you look at the statistics, what happened is they redefined the definition of deportation. It used to be that a deportation was when somebody crossed the border, was discovered by ICE or whatever, and was then sent back across the border to wherever he came from. That used to be the definition of deportation. Now they've expanded the definition. Right, exactly. Right.
And it's like the deported.
Right, exactly. Exactly. But now
I didn't hear that. What was it?
The definition of deportation has changed in the sense that it used to be that you were across the border and discovered, but now it's more so along the lines of giving someone a slip of paper and saying that you were deported.
Well, no, not even that. I mean, that may be the case too. But what they've, at the very least, what they've done is, instead of defining it merely as kicking someone out, they've expanded it to where if they catch you at the border before you cross and turn you back at that point, that qualifies as a deportation. See what I mean? So
I didn't know that.
Exactly. And so, you know, we've been stopping, in addition to deporting people, we've been stopping people at the border and turning them away for a long time. But those were never counted as deportations. Now they are. And so it artificially, on the surface, inflates the number of supposed deportations the Obama administration has been carrying out. And it's funny because I used to give Obama some credit for that. I used to be like, well, you know, maybe he's doing this, that, and the third wrong. But even though he hasn't completely secured the border, at least he's enforcing the law more than people give him credit for. And I was so disappointed when I actually looked into it. I realized, man, even with the things I was trying to give Obama credit for and defend him for, like, turned out to just be a statistical lie, just like the unemployment numbers and so many other things, you know.
I mean, but that's something that came from actual liberal groups, though. And this is why I'm surprised by what you're saying, because that actually comes from a lot of liberal groups.
Well, yeah, no. You're right.
In Miami, where I'm originally from, you know, the Cubans call him, you know, deporter in chief. You know,
right, yeah.
He's
been criticized. You're absolutely right. He's been criticized by liberal groups who are also swayed by the numbers. But I think that on balance, I think that if I am a politician, you know, aspiring, you know, I ran for office, you know, party chair and all that, and so I have a pretty good window in terms of how they calculate cost-benefit ratios in terms of putting out a certain perception. And I think that President Obama was always going to go in the direction of expanding rights for undocumented immigrants. But in order to accomplish that, he had to show himself as being a little bit hard line in one area to try and pull moderates over. So when he's asking for, you know, pathway to citizenship, birthright citizenship and all that, he's got to at least be able to come back to a few moderate Republicans and independents and say, hey, it's not that I don't care about border security. You know, look at all these people we've deported. But, you know, so I think that that's the trade-off, is they're willing to anger a couple of liberals to make them happy in the long run by tricking a few moderates in the process. And that's what I see reflected in the strategy of that statistical manipulation.
Well, notice that we haven't heard Trump mention this deportation of 11 million since then. I mean, it's the equivalent of Sanders and his free college for all.
Trump's not going to do it.
Yeah, this is one of the things that, we tend to oversell during the primary to, to show who's the bigger conservative. And so now that he's cleared one, he has toned it down. We get to see more of what he might actually be doing or selling to the whole country. But he hasn't said it since then. I mean, I don't know if I support deporting a whole 11 million. I mean, but we've seen him turn on policies before. So, I mean, I don't think that we should be, going nuts over that number. But at the same time, it's still a problem. It is very much a problem, and I want to see it fixed.
The only policy that I think Donald Trump is really committed to, the only one that I really believe in what he says he wants to do, is building the wall. I don't think he's going to deport many more people than are being deported now, but I think he's serious about building the wall. And the reason I say that is because Donald Trump lives to build. Like, he loves seeing his name on big, huge skyscrapers. Right. And no, seriously. And I think that he just looks at being president as an opportunity, to take his legacy in building and construction to the ultimate level, with the wall of Trump. Because if you look at it, practically speaking, like, I'm actually not opposed to a wall. I'm opposed to mass deportation, but I do think illegal immigration is a problem. I just don't want to be inhumane about it. But, I do want to secure the border, so I'm not opposed to a wall, but you don't need it. There are all sorts of other ways you could probably go about ensuring that you don't have people flooding over. And most of them don't come directly over the border anyway. Most of them overstay their visas. They come in planes, or they tunnel underground. So, it's not even the most practical solution by itself.
Well, but we all know about political payoffs, et cetera. And just as a sidebar, like, something I discussed yesterday was, in D.C., they were building a fine arts school. It's supposed to be like $78 million, and then it came and it was like, oops, it's $178. And I was like, you could, like, there's always some shaving off the top and ceiling, but can we be reasonable about it? So, I mean, I said that because as far as him building this wall, he is a real estate developer, is he not? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm pretty sure he's going to build that damn wall, and I'm certain he will have something to do with how those contracts are dillied out so that it gets done. Think about that for business, because I'm a capitalist, and so looking at him as a businessman, what better thing to have under your name, even when you're out of office, than to say, I, Donald Trump, was president when we built this, insert number of miles wall at the border. So, I mean, that is epic, so.
Definitely. Well.
All right. So, so we actually got through about 20-some% of the topics for the day, but it's fine. I'm not going to hold you all hostage like the rest of the afternoon. It's like, we have to get through this.
Hey, it's a lot of fun though, man. It just lets you know there are all sorts of juicy stuff to talk about. You can't say this. You can't say that 2016 has been boring. I mean, there may not be a 2017, but 2016 was definitely entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're only halfway through. Yeah. Shoot.
So, all right, and of course I don't have my notes in front of me, but I wanted to thank the guests for coming on today. Thank you, John.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. Thank you too, Russell. Pleasure.
Yeah,
same here. Thank you guys for chatting, and it was a pleasure.
Of course, and this show is brought to you by VM3 Media, our parent company, your source for all of your communications and media consulting needs. We're on every Sunday live at 3 o'clock. And until then, tune in to PopGlitz.com for the latest in celebrity news. Thanks, guys.